I came home from my sister's funeral to find my mother's wedding dress lying face down in the mud. It had been hanging in my closet for 40 years, the last link to a woman who taught me what dignity meant. Now it was drenched, the lace tangled in the flower bed. My daughter-in-law stood in the doorway, arms crossed, lips pursed. "My baby needs a nursery," she said flatly. "That junk can go," I didn't answer. The only thing I felt was a hollow click somewhere deep in my chest. My son Ethan, standing behind her, rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom, she just wants to make the house feel fresh." Fresh. That was the word he chose. I bent down, lifted the soaked fabric, and caught the smell of dirt and rain. Behind me, Brittany's heels crushed a picture frame, my parents on their wedding day. The glass cracked like a gunshot. I watched her walk away without a backward glance. A shard sliced my palm, but I barely felt it. This house in Sacramento had been my world for 35 years. I bought it after my husband died. Every plank, every nail, every coat of paint carried my fingerprints. I raised 3 children here. The mortgage was the only thing I ever feared. And the silence that came after it was finally paid off was the sweetest sound I'd known. Until now. Inside, half the living room had changed. My father's oak cabinet was gone, replaced by glossy white shelves that smelled of glue. Boxes with baby store logos sat in the corner. I looked at Ethan. "Where's the cabinet?" He didn't meet my eyes. We thought it was time for something modern. I should have screamed. Instead, I reached for my phone and took a picture of the mud-stained dress, the broken frame, the empty corner where the cabinet once stood. One photo after another. My hand was shaking, but the lens stayed steady. Later that night, when the rain started again, I sat on the edge of my bed and scrolled through the images. Every item told a piece of a story that didn't belong to them. I saved the photos to a new folder and typed the name quietly, Case Brittany. I could hear them laughing upstairs. The house had 2 floors, but the sound carried down like an echo from another life. I closed my eyes and thought of my mother's voice, calm and firm, the way she used to say, "When people cross your line, don't shout. Write it down." So, I wrote a short note in my old planner. February 22nd, first incident. Property damaged. Photographic evidence secured. Then I underlined one sentence. If they want a war, I will fight it in daylight. When I set the pen down, the ache in my chest softened into something sharper. Clarity. Grief was still there, but it no longer paralyzed me. It guided me. I picked up my phone and sent one message to the only person I trusted outside the family. "Raj, it's Marianne Foster. I need to talk tomorrow morning. Legal matter." Then I turned off the light, lay back, and let the rain tap the roof. The sound was steady, almost rhythmic, like footsteps approaching. I wasn't afraid anymore. The house might have turned cold, but I knew one thing for certain: it still carried my name. The next morning, the house was quiet enough to hear the hum of the refrigerator and the faint drip from the kitchen faucet. I walked toward the back, past the hallway where Brittany had hung a new mirror, a gold-rimmed one that didn't belong. My reflection looked older, smaller, but the eyes staring back were steady. Brittany had ordered me to move into the old storage room behind the house. "It's temporary," she'd said until we finished the renovation. But I knew it wasn't temporary. It was exile with a polite smile. The wooden door creaked when I opened it. Inside smelled of dust, damp cardboard, and something that used to be comfort. There was a folding mattress on the floor. No blanket, no table, no lamp. A single light bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering as if unsure whether to stay on or give up. I sat down and let my hand rest on the cold floor. It was strange how humiliation could be so quiet. No shouting, no insults, just silence heavy enough to crush your chest. I reached for my phone, opened the camera, and began again. Photos of the storage room. The stains on the wall, the cobwebs near the window. Each image felt like a small act of rebellion. Evidence wasn't loud. It was patient. That night, I made tea in the tiny kettle I'd brought from the kitchen. The water took forever to boil. From the window, I saw Brittany's car lights pull in, her music thumping like a heartbeat I didn't recognize. Ethan came out to greet her, took the shopping bags, kissed her on the cheek. Their laughter rose above the rain, sharp and careless. I sat by the window until the lights went out upstairs. Then I turned on my laptop. Old habits returned. The precision of a principal reviewing numbers, budgets, reports. I opened the joint savings account I had once let Ethan access for emergencies. Transactions appeared one by one. Interior design, boutique purchases, luxury spa weekends. Over $85,000 gone in less than a year. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Betrayal had a dollar sign. Now I printed the statements, slipped them into a manila folder, and labeled it neatly, Financial Evidence 1. Then I searched online for something else, How to File Property Misuse Report California. My eyes burned, but I kept reading. Knowledge was steadier than rage. By midnight, I had a list of steps, contacts, and laws. I closed the laptop and whispered to the darkness, "You picked the wrong old woman to underestimate." When I finally lay down, the mattress sagged beneath me, but I didn't feel broken. I felt awake in a way I hadn't been in years. Tomorrow I would see Raj Ma, attorney at law, the man who once helped me handle my husband's pension. And this time I wouldn't be asking for help out of grief. I would be asking for justice. 2 days later, Brittany announced a family dinner. "We should all sit down and talk things through," she said, her tone sugary enough to make my teeth ache. "My parents will join us too. They can help us keep the peace." Peace. That word coming from her sounded like a loaded gun wrapped in lace. By the time I stepped into the dining room that evening, the table was already set fine. China, folded napkins, candles burning low. Brittany looked perfect in a cream blouse, her dark hair pinned back. Her parents, Gregory and Denise Taylor, sat across from her, sipping wine as if they were at a country club instead of my house. Ethan was quiet, checking his phone, avoiding my eyes. "Marianne," Denise began with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "we were just telling Brittany how hard it must be for you to manage such a big house at your age. Have you ever thought about something simpler, like assisted living? They have lovely programs for seniors now." I set my fork down gently. "No," I said. "I haven't thought about that." Gregory leaned in. "You know, this could give the young couple more room to start their life properly." Brittany nodded as if on cue. "It would be better for everyone, really." I took a slow breath and let my gaze travel around the room, the glossy white shelves, the empty spot where my father's oak cabinet had stood, the new chandelier that didn't belong to me. Then I reached into my bag and placed a thick envelope right in the center of the table. "Well," I said quietly, "since we're talking about space and responsibility, let's make everything official." Brittany's smile faltered. "What's that?" I opened the envelope, pulled out a letterhead stamped with the seal of Ma and Associates, and began reading. Effective immediately, Ethan and Brittany Foster are offered a formal lease at $1,250 per month, renewable annually. Additionally, they will begin repaying $85,000 withdrawn without authorization over the last 10 months, with 2% interest across 48 installments. The only sound for a moment was the clock ticking above the mantel. Gregory's glass tipped, spilling red wine across the white tablecloth. Denise's jaw tightened. Ethan stared down at his plate. Brittany's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp now. "You're turning family into a business contract." I met her gaze evenly. "No, I'm turning theft into accountability." Her face flushed crimson. "You're overreacting." "That money was for the baby, our future." I tilted my head slightly. Then you won't mind showing me the medical report. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time since she moved into my house, Brittany didn't have a line ready. Ethan shifted uneasily. Mom, maybe this isn't the right time. I cut him off softly. It's exactly the right time. I gathered the papers back into the envelope and placed it by my plate. You have 48 hours to read and sign. After that, the offer expires. The room was so silent that I could hear the candle wax drip. Gregory muttered something under his breath. Denise glanced away. Brittany forced a laugh that cracked halfway through. You think a few papers will scare me? I'm pregnant, Marianne. You'll look heartless when everyone finds out. I leaned forward just enough to let my voice slice through the air. When you can prove it, I'll apologize. The words landed like stones. No one spoke again. I stood, folded my napkin, and pushed back my chair. Dinner's over. As I walked away, I heard the faint sound of a glass shattering behind me, but I didn't turn around. My pulse was steady, my hands calm. In the hallway mirror, I caught my reflection again, and this time I almost smiled. The war had started, but it was one I intended to win quietly. That night, the house was so still it felt like it was holding its breath. I sat on the edge of the narrow bed in the storage room, the letter from my attorney still in my hand. The echo of that dinner replayed in my mind, the silence, the glare, Brittany's shaking voice. I knew I had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. At 2 a.m., pain bloomed in my chest like fire. It started as pressure, then grew sharp enough to steal my breath. My hands trembled as I reached for the phone, but it slipped from my fingers. The world blurred. The ceiling spun. The last thing I remember was the faint scent of rain drifting through the open window. When I opened my eyes, everything was white and humming. A monitor beeped softly beside me. My throat felt dry as paper. Mom? The voice was soft but urgent. My daughter Claire sat at my bedside, her eyes red from crying. You scared us to death. Beside her was Jacob, my youngest. He had flown overnight from Denver, still wearing his work jacket. They said it was a mild heart attack, he said. You're going to be okay. I wanted to answer, but tears came, not from pain, just the weight of seeing my children again, the ones who still remembered who I used to be. The doctor entered, kind-faced, practical. You'll need rest, Mrs. Foster. No stress, no conflict. Your heart's strong, but it's tired. Please take it easy. Rest? No stress? I almost laughed. Doctor, I whispered. If I stop fighting, they'll take everything I've built. Claire squeezed my hand. Then let us fight with you. Over the next few days, the room filled with flowers and quiet conversations. My children stayed by my side, dividing shifts. They listened as I told them everything, how Ethan and Brittany had moved in, how the money vanished, how the dinner ended. Jacob's jaw tightened. He used your account without permission, I nodded. I trusted him. I trusted them both. Claire reached over, wiping a tear from my cheek. You don't have to go through this alone anymore. For the first time in weeks, I believed her. When I was discharged, Jacob drove me home. The rain had stopped, leaving the sky pale and washed clean. As we pulled up to the house, I saw Brittany's car in the driveway, but I didn't flinch. The front steps still carried the faint scent of lavender from my mother's garden. Inside, everything looked the same, but I wasn't. That evening, I opened my laptop again. My hands were still weak, but steady enough to type a single email. Subject: Update. Message: Raj, I'm home. Ready to proceed. Then I closed the computer, leaned back in my chair, and let the silence settle around me. They took my health, I murmured, but not my backbone. 3 days after I came home from the hospital, a soft knock sounded at my front door. I expected Claire or Jacob, maybe the mailman, but when I opened it, I froze. It was Denise Taylor, Brittany's mother. She looked nothing like the elegant woman who had smiled across my dinner table. Her lipstick was gone, her eyes swollen, her hair tied back without care. She clutched a small beige envelope against her chest as if it were fragile glass. "Mrs. Foster," she began, her voice shaking, "I need to talk to you privately." I hesitated for a moment, then gestured toward the porch swing. The air smelled faintly of wet soil after the morning drizzle. She sat, hands trembling, staring at the envelope. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "But I can't watch her destroy another life." I said nothing, waiting. Denise took a deep breath. "Brittany isn't pregnant." She never was. Her voice cracked on the last word. "She forged the documents she showed Ethan, used templates from an old clinic record. She can't have children. She's known that for years." The world seemed to slow around me. Birds chirped faintly in the distance, unaware that the truth had just detonated between us. Denise opened the envelope and handed me a stack of papers. Medical reports, email threads, credit card statements. "She's in debt," Denise whispered. $42,000 in cards, 3 personal loans. She's desperate. When she met Ethan, she saw a way out. I stared at the folder in my lap. The pages trembled in my hands, but my voice stayed calm. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because I raised her," she said softly, "and I have to live with that. But I won't let her take you down too." For a moment, I saw the guilt in her eyes, the kind of sorrow only a mother could know. I closed the folder carefully and nodded. "Thank you, Denise, for telling the truth." She stood, her shoulders slumped. "Please don't tell her I came. Just do what you have to do." After she left, I sat there for a long time, staring at the garden. My lavender plants had begun to bloom again, small, stubborn bursts of color against the gray sky. I thought of how truth worked the same way. It might come late. It might bloom through cracks, but it always found the light. That night, I called Claire into the kitchen. We scanned the documents together, cross-checked names and dates. Every piece matched. She even reused her friend's medical ID, Claire said, shaking her head. "It's all fake." We packaged the file neatly, labeled it Exhibit C, and attached it to an email for Rajma. Subject: New evidence. Urgent. When I hit send, a quiet peace settled over me. Not triumph, something gentler, more final. I poured myself a cup of chamomile tea and sat by the window, watching the porch light flicker. Sometimes the truth doesn't heal. It just clears the fog enough for you to see the road ahead. The hearing took place 2 weeks later in a modest county courthouse in downtown Sacramento. The sky that morning was cold and colorless, a perfect match for the quiet tension that filled the corridors. I wore my late husband's gray blazer, pressed and neat. My daughter Claire walked beside me carrying the folder marked Case Brittany Foster. Brittany and Ethan were already there. She sat at the plaintiff's table, a neat stack of papers before her, chin lifted high. Ethan looked worn down, the dark circles under his eyes betraying sleepless nights. He wouldn't look at me, the judge. Entered an older woman with silver hair and a voice that carried authority without shouting. "We're here today for the case of Brittany Foster versus Mary Ann Foster," she began. "Claim emotional distress and harassment, seeking damages of $120,000. Harassment?" The word almost made me laugh, but I stayed still. Her attorney, a young man who looked barely out of law school, stood first. He painted Brittany as a victim, a pregnant woman bullied and humiliated by her controlling mother-in-law. He said I had invaded her privacy, turned my home into a hostile environment, and jeopardized her marriage. Every sentence was polished, rehearsed. Hollow, then Rajma stood, calm, precise, unshakable. "Your Honor," he said, "we will show that Mrs. Foster acted within her legal rights as homeowner and financial victim. What the plaintiff calls harassment, the law calls evidence. He began presenting the exhibits one by one. Photographs of damaged property, bank statements detailing the $85,000 withdrawal, screenshots of furniture listings showing my sold belongings, and finally, the emails and medical records from Denise Taylor's envelope. The courtroom fell silent when Raj played the recording I had captured weeks earlier, Brittany's voice whispering into her phone. "Once I get the deed, I'll tell him I lost the baby. He'll feel guilty forever." Brittany froze. Her attorney turned pale. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. "Mrs. Foster," she said, "is that your voice in this recording?" Brittany's lips parted, but no sound came out. Ethan's head dropped into his hands. Denise Taylor was called to testify next. She confirmed every document, every word. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she said, "I'm ashamed, Your Honor. But everything my daughter did was deliberate." By the time the session ended, there wasn't a single person in that room who still saw Brittany as the victim she pretended to be. The judge's verdict was short and clear. The plaintiff's case is dismissed. The court recognizes Mrs. Foster as the rightful homeowner and primary financial guardian of all shared assets. Furthermore, a restitution will be arranged for misused funds. Mrs. Brittany Foster is hereby prohibited from contacting the defendant. The gavel struck once, sharp and final. I didn't cry. I just exhaled, the kind of breath you take after holding it for months. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Ethan approached slowly, his eyes red. "Mom," he said, voice trembling, "I don't know how to fix this." I looked at him for a long moment before answering. "Start by paying back what's owed. The rest will take time." He nodded, silent tears on his face. Weeks passed. The house grew quiet again. No shouting, no slammed doors. Lavender bloomed along the fence line, and the rocking chair on the porch no longer felt haunted by memories of conflict. Every month, Ethan's check arrived on time with a short note. "Still trying." I forgave him in small pieces, never all at once. Forgiveness, I learned, does not surrender its release. One evening I sat by the window, the scent of lavender drifting through the open air, and wrote the final line in my journal. Justice isn't loud. It's breathing without fear. I looked around the house, my house, and smiled. The light through the window touched the framed photo of my parents, newly restored. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly at home. Then I turned to the camera and said softly, "If this story reached you, give it a like. Share it with someone who needs strength tonight, and tell me where you're watching from. Because no matter how far you are, remember, you're never too old to start again."